Hi, welcome to the second podcast. The first one went so well, I thought I'd get started on the next. I wanted to talk about going back to work after Christmas. You see, so many people dread this. You see, I've recently gone back to work, as many of you may have, or will be soon. For me, thinking about going back to work is the hardest part. The first day is the second hardest part, and then on the third day it seems normal to me, like the break had no effect. I'm not sure if that's like what everyone else experiences, but that's how I have experienced it so far. I wanted to talk about a few things this time. I wanted to talk about the time and how that is affected after going back to work, what people dislike about going back to work, and how going back to work affects the future. Firstly, let's talk about the time. When I go back to work, time seems normal. Yes, it might go slowly during work, but when it comes time for the weekend, I find time to go so fast. It seems unnatural. I find that during Christmas, time was normal or going too quickly. But then when it's your free time after work, you get home from work, or it's on the weekend, time goes so fast, you've got no time whatsoever. Time goes so fast, it just runs away. Even though I do seem to get more done during the weekend after going back than I did in the time during my Christmas holiday, I find that time goes just too fast. And that's an observation I have made after Christmas, and you've settled in a little bit more. Time for me just seems to go back to normal. But next, let's talk about what people dislike about going back after Christmas. The number one thing that I've seen online that most people dislike is a backlog of work. You see, when I went back to work, I had a backlog of emails, work that's piled up over the Christmas holiday. Just so much to do. And people, it seems, dislike this the most. It's a thought in their head through Christmas. Just something bugging them. And then when it seems to get closer and closer to the day you're actually returning to work, it seems that that small thought turns into something so big it worries us. We absolutely hate the idea of going back to work for that. Even though it may not be that bad as it seems. It could be worse, but usually we can deal with it. But that is the number one thing that people dislike. And the second thing is psychology. And this is an interesting thing, something I find quite interesting. During Christmas, we do a lot. We may exercise more, but we may also eat a lot more. We may speak to a lot of family, friends, or we may relax and not interact as much. However we act during Christmas, going back to work seems daunting. What are people actually going to think of me when I return? Have I eaten too much? Have I not exercised enough? Has my social skills dropped? What are people actually going to think of me when I speak? What do I look like to them? Do they think I've changed over Christmas? How have they changed? Are they the same? Have I fallen behind? There's just so many questions that you ask. There's a voice inside your head all the time. And that's something that I struggled with too. How am I going to speak to people? Confidence is such a big part of my life. Confidence is such a struggle that I've struggled with pretty much my entire life. And that's something that many, many people, I imagine, will have struggled with going back to work after Christmas. Even though it is a struggle for everyone, it may not seem to be. And that can be difficult on its own, just that thought. And I find it interesting that no matter how much we prepare, how little we prepare, how much we change, grow, we're always going to struggle. No matter who we are or what we do, psychology is something that is deeply affected when going back to work after Christmas. It's such a big change, and the environment itself, the people, it can be a difficult thing. Another thing about psychology is, how are people going to treat me? That's something a lot of people are going to be scared of. For example, take a salesperson. They may be the greatest salesperson in the world, and people may call them a friend rather than a salesperson. They're going to go back to work and wonder if people are going to shout at them. How many people are actually going to talk to them or tell them to go away? How many people are going to like them? Are they going to be called names? Shouted at over the phone? There's just so many things that people are scared of going back to work after Christmas. It reminds me of when I was in a reception role, talking on the phone, going back to work after a holiday or a break. I'm scared. I don't want to pick up the phone. What are people going to say? Am I going to have the competence to actually respond in the right way? Can I give them the correct information? Do I remember my job? You're scared that you're not going to be able to do it. And if you don't, you're scared of the consequences. And lastly, I wanted to talk about the silver lining about going back to work after Christmas. The good thing, for me personally, going back to work after Christmas may seem terrible, may seem great even. You may enjoy it. But that's the thing. What do you feel about going back to work after Christmas? You may hate it, you may love it, then you may want something changing. Every day you go to work, or you may do something to earn money. You may be a freelancer, you may write content, you may be a receptionist, or a data entry clerk. You may have a lot of different things that you want to do. But when you actually go back to work, for me, it puts it in a spotlight. It makes you think about what you actually want. Do I want something changing? Is there something that needs to be done to get me where I want to go? How can I improve? How can I get to where I want to go? And that's one of the best things about going back to work for me. It's a catalyst of improvement. It's a catalyst to allow me to improve so I can go where I want to go. I thank you so much for listening to this podcast, and I know I struggle with my wording, and I think I'm getting better. I appreciate you listening, and if you want to stick around, please subscribe and share your thoughts. For there is a lot more I want to talk about. I barely started. So thank you for listening. Good night.